Well, hello and welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. We are studying the great book of wisdom of Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon 3,000 years ago. But last week's message was how this was a book without time or place. And so here we are in the year 2024. We're 3,000 years later, but these qualities are not limited by that ancient time or that place. Solomon resided in Jerusalem. Still an important place in the world, but it's not just something for Israel, for Jerusalem. It's not something just for that time. It's for us here today. And we've been introduced to several principles in the opening chapter. The idea there's nothing new under the sun, and that's true. That's what speaks to the universal nature of the book. He talks about vanity and how much of life is vanity. And today we're going to look at one of those universal things that affects us as humans. Searching for pleasure. Let's be honest, we spend a lot of money, we spend a lot of time on that, and we're going to think about it today. And just to get us started, I want to look at the opening line of this chapter 2 to get us started. So this wise man, the one that they came from all over the world to seek counsel of, because he had wisdom. And we are in a time where in our land, our world, we as individuals need this wisdom. Well, this wise man said, well, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. Almost like a scientist engaging in an experiment. He said, let me just see how far I can go with this. And let me see the results, just like a person who's testing the impact of a chemical. Let's see what happens. If I fully give my heart, if I give my time and efforts, if I pursue this with everything I have, what will it produce? Well, I want to begin as we unpack this by just starting with a simple definition, a human definition, a Merriam definition of pleasure. I think it's a word we're acquainted with. It can mean enjoyment. He said enjoy yourself, happiness, satisfaction. There's various examples of this. He says coffee is one of my few pleasures. I do enjoy coffee, so it's something that does give me pleasure. Maybe for you, it's camping. Maybe it could be anything. But this is just kind of a starting point. Now, I also want to go just a little deeper with it. There's a Hebrew word here that can, and I probably can't pronounce it perfectly, so I won't try. But we really want to understand words have meanings. And it's joy or mirth, and mirth really is related to this idea of laughter and amusement. And I always like to make things contextualized for ourselves. Now, Solomon had incredible resources. We all have a certain degree of resources, a limited supply. But what would you seek? What brings you pleasure? What brings you laughter? What brings you amusement? If you were going to have, say, I want you to take this next season, this next month or so, and I want you just to do something you really enjoy. We have these little escapes. A lot of people say, well, I like to just, I have a series in Netflix I want to look at, or I want to go on this vacation, or I want to, some of these things can just be kind of neutral. Some can be very sinful. But what is it you would seek after? What would produce that? If you were going to be given such a mission, such an experiment to try. There's some interesting facts in the U.S. Think about how we might want to amuse ourselves. And I'm not drawing judgment on these things. I'm just sharing with you facts. Americans spent $57 billion on video games last year. And it breaks down, by the way, by household is, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the average American. The gambling industry was even bigger, $66 billion. the amusement park industry, and travel spending is really big. And we could look at eating out, we could look at movies, we could look at so many things. I'm not trying to point to something in particular, but Solomon, 3,000 years ago, said, I'm going to spend a lot of time and effort and resources on seeking pleasure. And it's something that people still pursue today. I'm sure we all do. I do. I know you do. So let's just be honest about it. So let's learn a little about his experiment. Let's learn about how it goes. Well, here's this phrase again. Remember, this is a theme we're going to see in almost every chapter of this book. It's vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold of folly. Like, I want to get a hold of this folly. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. It's kind of like, there's that saying, you only live once. There's FOMO. We don't want to miss out. We want to do it all. Let's go for it. Let's do it. But you could have that experiment. And think about yourself even. If you get, sometimes you crave a little break to get a little pleasure in your life. Maybe you're working hard, you're stressed out, and it feels good. But if you did that day after day after day after day after day, there's a point that pleasure it gives you would lose some of the satisfaction. He indulged in it all the way. You might say, wouldn't it be awesome to have unlimited resources to do it all? But at the end, what would it produce? And let's remember this idea of vanity. In fact, I'm not just talking here, don't think of it as just something simple. Many of these are good things. They're not bad in and of themselves. But are they substantive? Are they what, give you the deep meaning of life? The word amusement means to basically suspend thinking, to not muse, to not think. And yeah, there's times our bodies are in need of a break. But is this the major pursuit of our life? Is this what life is all about in our days that we have? He, continuing on here, lived the B-I-G, big life. He said, just think about it. I made great works. Wonderful. Just like today, we might have people that invest their money in this famous, museum or landmark or place. Those can be good and people can enjoy them. They're not bad to have great works. He built houses and planted vineyards, parks and gardens, all kinds of trees. And, trees are beautiful to behold. These are not bad. Pools from which to water the forest. I bought male and female slaves. I had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me. I had silver and gold and the treasure of the kings and provinces. I got singers and concubines and the delights of the Son of Man. And just to kind of summarize this, there were some noble things. There were some not so noble things. But he spent it on anything. He spent it on everything. He did it all. And you know what? I bet a lot of people would say, boy, if I won the lottery, or if I was somebody like a Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, or, if I had these billions of dollars, boy, think of the mansion I could build. Think of, maybe I'd do some good things with it too. Maybe I would build some nice places for the public. But he had all these treasures. He had all these possessions. You think, it sounds so wonderful. How could he not be happy? How could he not have just such satisfaction when he was able to live in a way more than any of us could even imagine? We may all do this in some small way. We may not have as great a works as him, or the houses like him, or possessions like him. But on some scale, we all are living some part of this life. So let's learn from his wisdom. He had wisdom and he had experience. He had lived it. So I became great, and I surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. And my wisdom remained with me. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Whatever my heart's desire, I did not keep from it. There's sometimes you think about something and say, well, someday that'd be nice to have. I just can't afford it now. He never had to say that. His wealth was beyond measure. And he said, and I kept my heart from no pleasure. And I think in this season of his life, he didn't even let morality or anything impact him. He just said, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. It's an experiment. I will not hold back. For my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for my toil. As people might say today, I worked hard. I deserve this. But here we go. The results of the experiment. And then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and a striving after the wind. And there was nothing to be gained under the sun. And we're going to stop here for today. And I want to keep reminding you of some things. We're going to see layers of this. There's a degree of repetition and there's a degree of newness, because we're going to see other experiments and other areas of life, and they're all universal. But remember, don't get depressed. We're seeing a book that is unfolding here, and we keep seeing these parts that kind of come to these interim conclusions. He's not saying here life is hopeless. And by the way, I don't even think he's saying that these things, many of these things, are not inherently bad. Everything has to be taken into context. And I want to invite you in this season when we're exploring this book, because this is what I'm doing. Because just like Solomon, I seek pleasures of this world. I've gone to amusement parks. I like to travel. I like to do things. I like good foods and all these. And it's not that we have to live as a monk and say, well, I just cannot have any good food, or I can't travel, or I can't do these things. That's not the point. The point, though, is what is your life all about? Is that the end all? Is that part of your life, or is that everything in your life? He's saying this is not the number one part of life. It can be part of life, but it's not the end of the game. And so, instead of amusing ourselves for these whatever time we spend each week looking at Ecclesiastes, let's muse, let's think. It's a deep book. And let's think about the things that are truly important in our life. And let's seek wisdom. Let's learn.